Yeah, they're like both red and white got tabletop way too hard.
What's up, everyone? It's Hakuna Matata here, and today I'll be presenting 10 in-game situations that show how bad I messed up in my game against the one and only Dylighted. As always, I'll be packing a lot of content in here, and I'm not the fastest talker, so I do recommend upping the video speed purely for your entertainment. Really quick, some background into my relationships with the players in this game. I played against, of course, Dylighted, Ion, who also goes by Alex, and Gordy, and my records against these players are as follows. I've never played against Gordy and therefore was very unfamiliar with his style of play coming into this game. I played against Ion the most through multiple Catan Championship tournament games, and I'll go ahead and link the Discord in the description below. And lastly, I played against Dylighted twice, once on Colonist and once on Catan Universe. But without further ado, let's analyze the board. I'm not going to be doing a placement analysis on this video as my other videos are pretty heavy on that thought process, and so I instead want to use more of my time focused on in-game decision making. But the placements were as follows. Gordy picked first, and in first position picked the 8-5-10 in the south corner. Dylighted was in second position, did the 13 points of production at the 5-6-9 wooden brick. Ion went third, 6-4-9. I then chose in fourth position with the 8-4-3, 8-4-5 combination, which led Ion to the 6-3-11 to get the coordinated roads. Dylighted picked next, 10-11-3 wheat, wood, and ore. And then lastly, Gordy picked on the 8-10, 3-for-1 port, and pointed right. And so just by looking at everyone's setups, another reason why I don't want to do a placement analysis is because I don't have any gripes with anyone's placements. I think everyone has a strong setup, and it is, of course, anyone's game. But first, let's talk a little bit about Colonist.io, the platform that this game was hosted on. Colonist.io is, in my opinion, the best way to play online Catan. The site is very easy to use, and it's completely free. You can use it to play with your friends, or even enter in tournaments. I'll put the link to the website in the description below, and I encourage everyone to check it out. So it's Dylighted's turn, and he just rolled a 7. He currently has 1 wheat in his hand, and I know this. So I'm saying, hey Dylighted, I have a brick. You don't want a brick, why would you steal from me? You're on 13 points of brick. I know Gordy has some wheat and some sheep. Those things are a little bit more rare for you. Maybe you should steal from him. However, this is a huge mistake. If Dylighted steals from me, he'd have a wheat and a brick. That means he'd only be 1-9 away from settling on his next turn. So now I have a really important decision to make here. I can either use my knight card to move the robber off of my valuable 8 wheat, or I can hold off on playing the knight card and instead use this turn to play my road building to double road to the 5 ore. So not only am I wondering, is this the right decision, but also is this the right time to make that move? And I end up double roading to the 5 ore primarily because I think no one's in need of being blocked immediately. But also, I think Gordy has a knight card. He has 2 down devs. I think he can move it off the 8 wheat, so I don't think it'll stay there much longer. Also, I know Gordy doesn't have any wood or brick at the moment, but let's say he steals one and then makes another trade and can single road to the 5 ore. I feel like I would have missed a really big opportunity to get to the best ore spot on the board. And look at my hand, I have 1 brick. So what is 1 extra wheat going to do for me this turn? Not much. So the benefits of doing the road building would not only get me to the most valuable ore spot, but also limit Gordy's expansion spots. Gordy is currently the ore wheat sheep's player. That's all he's on is ore wheat sheep. Best ore, best wheat, best sheep in the game. So he can build cities and buy development cards fairly easy. The most difficult point for him to do is build roads and settlements. So it's extremely important that early on, the other players limit the expansion spots as quickly as possible to make the game extremely difficult for him to progress. There are some disadvantages to consider though. 1, Gordy might not have a knight, and it might stay on my 8 wheat for quite a while. 2, Gordy will have the knight, he's going to be moving it, and he's going to be stealing from somebody. If I just cut him off, he's going to be pretty angry with me, and he might rob me out of spite. And 3, Gordy also plays the first knight and now has lead on me for getting largest army. So what do y'all think? Do you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? So first, before we discuss using the knight as leverage, let's discuss a little bit about my thought process in tracking resource cards. Dylighted has 1 wheat, the brick he just stole from me, and another brick from the 5 rolling. Now what's most difficult with tracking is when people steal cards from one another, and I like to try to figure out, without plainly asking, what card they stole. So here, Dylighted uses a robber and steals from Ion, who we know has a wood and a wheat from the 4 rolling. So Dylighted either stole a wood or a wheat, and since Dylighted then asked for more wheat, I start to assume maybe he got the wood. Why would he want 3 wheat in his hand? But next roll is a 3, so Ion has ore and wheat, or ore and wood. And then now, there's a 9, there's some sheep for Ion. So he has a development card in hand, I think, but he doesn't buy one. Is he just holding, or maybe Dylan really did get a wheat? It's pretty up in the air, but luckily we can use our knight to get more information. So now I'm finally playing my knight card, and I'm desperately in need of a wood to settle. Ion might have 1 wood, but Dylighted definitely has 1 wood, and possibly has both of them out on the board right now. I then say something along the lines of, "Hey Dylighted, I know you have a settlement in hand, and I don't want to break it up if I don't have to. I just need a wood. Would you trade me your wood for whatever I steal from whoever you want me to steal from?" I'm putting more power in Dylighted's hands here for 2 reasons. 1, to make him more inclined to agree. He has more control on this agreement. But also 2, to make it seem like he's the one stealing the card and getting blood on his hands, not mine. Dylighted agrees and says to block the 6 brick and steal from Ion. Meanwhile, what I'm really secretly hoping for is for Ion to chime in and offer up his wood instead. That way I can possibly break up Dylighted's settlement and get a settlement of my own. Unfortunately, Ion can't counter, and so I know Dylighted stole that 2nd wood from him. So the deal goes through with Dylighted, and I'm able to settle on the 5 ore. Do you think this was the right move? Or do you think it was more important to try to break up Dylighted's settlement? The way I saw it was I only had a 2 out of 7 chance of breaking up his settlement, and I think getting on the 5 ore is a game changer. Since I just stole a sheep and not something valuable like an ore, I think this agreement was fine to make. So we fast forward quite a bit in the game here, and most players are pretty developed. I roll an 8, and I'm really only thinking about 2 things right now. Either trying to build cities, or buy more development cards. I immediately try to trade my brick for wheat, so I can pop 2 development cards right then and there. First try with Gordy. You know he has either 4 or 5 wheat in his hand currently, and he doesn't produce any brick. So I'm trying to make this deal go through. However, it doesn't, and so then I turn to Dylighted. I know he has 3 wheat and 2 sheep in his hand. And so I again make that trade, but then throw in the fact that, hey, if you don't take this deal with me, I'm probably just going to have to play my knight and rob from you and get the wheat that way. He still declines, and so I play an aggressive knight to the 10 wheat and steal a wheat from Dylighted, and I immediately buy 2 development cards. But I think I should have considered holding on to my knight and holding for a city just a little bit more. Particularly for the reason of Gordy being the type of player to only buy development cards this entire game. He's locked himself out of expansion spots almost completely, and being only ore wheat cheap, he's going to be buying quite a lot of cards. Sure, I can probably outproduce him, but it'll be very annoying to try to compete for army. And honestly, me and Gordy share quite a few spots here, especially my important spots are the 5s and the 8s. So Gordy's going to be there to back me up and defend me. He'll be able to move the robber off those valuable spots for me. So I shouldn't worry about not being able to defend myself in certain situations. By me buying development cards, I'm committing myself to this army race. Or at least so I think. So it's my next turn, I roll a 7. I quickly try to trade a brick or a sheep for a wheat or an ore with someone in exchange for not stealing from them, and then in hopes also stealing a wheat or an ore from the other person. That way I can use my year of plenty for a city. However, there's really no ore out there, no one bites. I block the 6 brick and I steal from Ion. Now I have 3 sheep in my hand and I feel like it's pretty stuck. I try to trade my brick for a sheep in hopes of 3 for 1ing for an ore, buy another development card, and that way I can play my 3rd knight and feel comfortable also having another knight possibly in my back pocket. I don't want to play the knight, take largest army, and then Gordy immediately remove it, block me. Now I'm stuck defenseless, right? It is worth noting here that I could possibly get to 8 points on this turn. I play the knight for largest army, I 3 for 1 the sheep for a wood, build another road, I have longest road as well. 8 points right there. Down dev, that could be the 9th point the other players don't know. No one's traded me here. However, 3 for 1ing for a road is definitely the wrong move here. It's going to be a dead road not leading to any settlement spot. And the next turn, Dylighted and Ion have so much wood and brick that they'd easily be able to take it from me right then and there. I think longest road is completely off the table unless it's too windy game, not to get to 8 points. So what do I do here? Well, I guess you have to play the knight, right? Maybe I can steal a sheep. I know Ion does not have a sheep. I'm pretty sure Dylighted has 2 sheep, 40% chance. That's not so bad. I considered that. And Gordy, I have no idea what the hell Gordy has anymore. He has so many cards. He discards so many cards. He steals so many cards. I've completely lost track. So I guess just play the knight here, lock army, and take the risk, right? Wait, what? You don't play the knight? You let Gordy just take largest army? Well, my plan here was the whole time during this discussion, I was kind of talking as if I did not have a knight in my pocket, in hopes that Gordy would see that as, wow, why do I even need to play my third knight here if he doesn't have a knight yet? You know, it's not blocking me. And I was hoping he would think this way, and it would give me another revolution to do something on my next turn, as well as still securing largest army. However, of course, Gordy made the right decision, played the third knight, got army ahead of me, and also blocked and stole a card from me. So an utter fail this turn, but I'm really curious to see what you guys would do. I mean, just last turn, there I was buying multiple development cards, committing myself to largest army, and now here I am just giving it away. And I feel like I'm definitely not committed to a game plan. So now we can just take a look at one of my bigger turns later in the game. I have 10 cards and a year of plenty, so there's a lot of options of what I can do here. I can 3 for 1 the wheat for a brick and road settle onto the 4 wheat or the 8-3 wheat hexes. Or I can use a year of plenty this turn to get 2 ore, to build a city or buy 3 development cards. Or I can even use a year of plenty to help me double road settle onto the 6-3. As much as I like plowing Ion in this position, that would leave me at all my 5 settlement spots taken. And so my next goal would have to be a city. And it's kind of difficult for me to do only on the 3 and the 5, no cities on the ore at all. So I instead use a year of plenty to get 2 ores. I 3 for 1 my wheat for the 3rd ore and build a city on the 8-3-4. So the reason why I 3 for 1 the wheat instead of 2 for 1 the wood was primarily because I even considered building another road on this turn. I just wanted the wood there to help me road settle next turn in the future. So I cityed up the 8-3-4 primarily because I wanted to city up ore, and the 3 is triple shared, so hardly ever blocked, only by Gordy really. Also, this allows me to have coordinated 8s, technically. I have a wheat from the 8 and then 3 sheep that I can turn into an ore. So really every 8 I have a wheat and an ore, or a wheat in any card that I want. So I really like adding more production and sitting up the ore. However, I would consider even sitting up the 8-4-5. This would balance the wheat and sheep income from an 8, as well as make a 4 any card, since I have the wood port. What would you have done in this position? A few turns later, here we are again with a monster hand and lots of options for what we can do. So we can either road settle onto the 8-3, we can port 6 sheep and 2 wood for a city on the 8-4-5, we can port 6 sheep and buy 2 development cards, or we can try to make a trade to plow Ion on the 6-3. I'm able to trade a sheep and a wheat for either a wood or a brick, and I can make that happen. Ion of course wouldn't trade me, and Dylighted has 2 wheat in his hand. So here I kind of just weakly attempted to get wood or brick from Gordy, but he isn't having it at all. However, I wish I really considered this last option quite a bit more. Looking back, I should have framed the negotiation as this. Hey Gordy, we both know that you need at least 1 expansion spot this game to have a chance at winning. If I can't go to the 6-3 right here, I'll probably have to go to the 8-3 and your game is pretty dead. But if you trade me to get to the 6-3, I'm flushing my hand completely, and this 8-3 remains open for you. If you still decline, then I'd even go as far as to say, I'll surrender the 8-3 for you, Gordy. It's yours for the rest of the game if you help me get to the 6-3. This would set back Ion and resurge Gordy so he isn't just buying devs all game because he has nothing else to do. Ultimately, I buy 2 devs this turn, but I think that's a wrong decision. At this point, I know that Gordy has as many as 2 knights already in his hand and 8 cards to buy more. I think the better play is to city up the 8-4-5 and just focus on building my way to 10 points. Fortunately, I got great development cards that helped me achieve this game plan. So believe it or not, but we have our biggest turn yet here with so many different options. We have 12 cards and 2 powerful development cards. And so I'm very interested to see what everyone has to say about Situation 6 in the comments below. First off, we have an actionable turn even without the devs, right? We can port our sheep for 2 ore and build a city on the 845. Great turn. However, we can also be more efficient with our card usage, and we can use our Year of Plenty for 2 ore to build that city. However, I don't really like our hand if we do that after we build the city. We kind of have it stuck with some sheep, a wood, 2 brick, and I don't like building roads here when we have a road building in our pocket. The third option is I can port sheep for 2 ore and buy 2 development cards. Fourth option is use the Year of Plenty, and I can buy 3 development cards. Or we can just focus on our road building. We can use the road build to get to the 8-3 and the 4. We have enough cards to settle twice on this turn. Or we can double road and get to the sheep port. Lastly, it's also worth noting that we can take longest road this turn and build a city, which would get us to 8 points. However, I'm obviously not a fan of this move. It would just be a temporary 8 points as Dylighted takes road right after. I think as much as I want to build a city here, I'm not a fan of my hand after I build it, and I hate porting 6 sheep when I have a Year of Plenty. I don't like necessarily buying devs here either because I think 3 victory points are already out there, and army is kind of just a lost cause at this point. I would need almost every remaining knight to get army. So I think let's use a road building this hand. Let's either get to the sheep port or double settle here. I end up double road settling to nab up all the remaining spots I have left. However, because of the time constraint and with so many options, I didn't really see how valuable the sheep port really is. Primarily because I plan on sitting up the 845 next anyways. So there's no point in me tripling up on that 8 wheat in my opinion. The sheep port just adds flexibility to my hands, and it turns every 8 into a development card. And so after I settle, my hand would be 1 brick, 5 sheep, 1 wheat, and 1 ore. I'm basically a sheep, ore, or wheat away from sitting without using my Year of Plenty next turn, or I could even buy a development card this turn. I have a lot that I can do now with this added port. I think surrendering the 5 points of production of doubling on that 8 right away is worth it to add this flexibility. But I'm very excited to see what everyone has to say about Situation 6. So up until now, every situation in this video has been in chronological order. However, we're going to go back to early in the game and highlight a trade that Ion made that led to him getting an early city. The only thing that Ion says is anyone looking for a sheep? That's it. And it's dead quiet. I don't have a wood, Dylighted isn't going to make that trade, and I just assumed no one would. It's not a very good trade. But to my surprise, Gordy, without saying anything, accepts the trade and gives Ion what he needs to have a city. Now, looking back, I'm not really sure what Gordy's goal was here. I'm thinking maybe get another sheep to 3 for 1 for an ore or a brick, something, but he's on 8 points of sheep. I really think it's my fault that I didn't step up, say something, not only about how bad that trade is, but also the impact of making that trade would have on Ion's game. So even if a bad trade is out there from now on, I'm looking to say something to make sure it doesn't go under my nose like it did there. Now let's jump back further in the game and look at Dylighted's turn here. At this point, the table was discussing the possibility that I have a victory point, thus being at 8 points and only needing 3 roads to win the entire game. So Dylan is very concerned at this point and wants a road desperately, so I don't sneak a win. The only way Dylighted can get a wood, however, at this point would be to trade with Ion. At first, I'm always happy to see players unnecessarily use their resources when they don't have to. In this case, I'm not going to steal road, come on. However, whenever Ion's asking for a wheat in exchange for that wood, I really need to step in here, more than I actually did. Ion's hand is currently 5 wood, 1 sheep, 1 ore, 2 bricks, and 1 wheat. This means a wheat for wood trade gives him a sitting on his turn. If I was precisely tracking, I would have told Dylan this. However, I wasn't, but I still know wheat is very valuable, so I'm trying to step in there. What I should have said was, look Dylighted, I don't have a PvP, and I can promise you, I won't take road on this turn. Please do not trade away a city for a road. What are you doing? The best case scenario here would be to get Dylighted to port his 2 wheat for the wood to build that road. That would be amazing. However, I think it's important not to be greedy here and just ensure the trade does not go through. Luckily on Ion's turn, he hits a 7, so I think we caught a break. But Dylighted only leaves an ore in his hand for Ion to steal and complete his city on the 6-3-11. Ouch. I think the lesson here is that simply reiterating facts can go a long way. Ion's at 10 cards, he's close to a city, a wheat is extremely valuable for him. And then also making promises and deals. Hey Dylighted, I promise I won't take road on my turn. You will have another turn, I promise. Do not force a deal to happen. That would stop Ion from having a city and making the 6s extremely deadly. Now, as you just saw, I rolled an 8, and I have a pretty important turn here. Do I buy one development card and save the Year of Plenty? Do I use the Year of Plenty to city the 8-4-5? Or do I use the Year of Plenty to buy 2 development cards? Well, before I tell you what I did, let's look at my thought process for this turn. And it was based purely on development card tracking. So as y'all know, there are 25 total development cards in the deck. 14 Knights, 5 Victory Points, 2 Road Buildings, 2 Year of Plenties, and 2 Monopolies. Based on tracking what cards have been played and bought, we can figure out how many development cards are left and what they could be. So far this game, Gordy has played 4 Knights, and I'm certain he has 1 Knight unplayed and 1 Victory Point because he has said so. However, I'm unsure of what his 3rd hidden development card is. Dylighted has 1 Knight played and 1 Victory Point, because if it was any other development card he would have played it by now. But I'm unsure of his other hidden development card because he had just bought it his last turn, and so it really could be anything. Next, Ion only bought 2 development cards this game. One was a Knight, and the other one has to be a VP, again because if it was any other development card, he definitely would have played it by now. There have been plenty of opportunities for a Monopoly so far. Lastly, I can fill out my info here. 3 Knights, 2 Road Buildings, and 2 Year of Plenties. So 19 development cards have been bought and only 6 remain. Of these 6, they can be any combination of 4 Knights, 2 Victory Points, and 2 Monopolies. So in my mind, I'm thinking I have a 50% chance at getting a VP or a Mono, even though that might not necessarily be the case. I take the chance. I use my Year of Plenty to buy 2 development cards instead of the city. We're running out of development cards here, and the last thing I want is for the other players to buy out all of these juicy cards left. So I buy it and I get the mono. Now hopefully I can win on my next turn. However, I think an 8-4-5 city is always extremely strong, and I'm thinking that might be the right play in this position. Comment below what you think. Alright, so now for situation 9, aka situation I really needed a lot more time. So the next 3 turns were as follows. So now it's my turn, and I, like many other times before, have a monster hand and so many options of what I can do on this turn. So I hold off on using my Knight in hopes that I can use my mono to get a lot of ore or another resource. However, I roll a 4. And now do I even use a mono? I think the only 2 things I'd consider monoing here are wood and ore. But luckily I was tracking and I knew that there was 4 wood out there and 3 ore. Both aren't the best monos, but I realized 3 ore at least gives me the chance for the win here. It allows me to put up 2 cities and pull for the win. However, let's take a look at our updated development card tracker, as lots has changed since last time. Since I bought a Knight and a Monopoly, we can go ahead and cross those out. And Gordy also just bought a development card, so we have another unknown card. It is also worth noting that Dylighted did not play a Knight on his previous turn, so he either has a VP or a mono for sure. However, because he passed his turn so quickly, I'm more inclined to think he has a victory point. So now there are only 3 development cards left in this deck. Worst case scenario, 3 Knights. Best case scenario, 2 victory points and a Monopoly, but it can be any combination in between. So what do I do? Knowing there's a chance at 0 VPs left, I just double city and buy 1 development card. And I get a Knight, gross. However, looking back at this turn, I think it may be worth it to just buy 3 development cards, or buy devs until I hit the VP or mono. Even if I buy all 3 Knights, I therefore would have what I needed to win the army race after all this time. But in my opinion, I don't think I have enough time. I would need 3 more turns in order to win the army race, and I think someone would win within that time period. Buying out the devs would make it so I had 99% of the dev card info out there, and I wouldn't have to worry about the other players pulling for it. They'd have to build a city and or build a settlement in order to beat me. So what would you do here? Do you even play the mono? I still feel this mono was necessary because it not only gave me a chance, but it also took fuel away from the other players trying to buy the remaining development cards as well. Alright, so here we go with our last situation. The next 3 turns were as follows. And now it gets to my turn, and I decide to use my knight before I roll. The question is, who do I rob from, and where do I block? Well, what do I need to steal? I need to steal either an ore or a sheep. Currently, everyone's hands are Gordy has 3 wheat and 3 sheep. Dylighted has 1 brick, 2 wood, 1 sheep. Ion has 2 wood, 2 wheat, 1 sheep. However, I made a very big mistake of not tracking Gordy's hands since he was a dead player. I knew he had no chance at winning this game, so I was really only focused on Dylighted and Ion's hands to see when they had actionable turns. Now the goal for the block. I figure I need to stop people from trying to pull for the victory point. There's 2 development cards left, and it's possible that one of those is a victory point. That's a 50% chance at someone winning the game if they're at 9 points and start to pull for it. At this point, I'm so focused on this idea that I block the 10 wheat and steal from Dylighted. And I got the worst card, a brick. In reality, my very best odds for getting a sheep were from Gordy. So I think I should have stolen from him. I just wasn't even considering it because it was physically impossible for him to win the game. And I'm punching myself looking back at this right now. Stealing from Dylighted gave me a 25% chance at a sheep. Stealing from Gordy gave me a 50% chance at a sheep. The odds are not even close, and pulling a sheep there could have won me the game. Unable to do anything, I pass my turn and hope to get another shot. But before I move on, let me know what you think about the 10 wheat block. I blocked the 10 wheat because I believe both Dylighted and Gordy can pull for it on their turn if the 10 hits. All of this indecision came from me not buying out the deck my last turn in situation 9. Knowing Dylighted already had a sheep in his hand is the reason I didn't block the 9, and I figured the 6 brick doesn't really do much to harm Dylighted. And in my eyes, he's so close because he just needs 1 development card and he pretty much wins the game. If Dylighted and Ion were on a better spot together, that would absolutely have been where I blocked. But you know, at this point, I'm so siloed in on letting no one else buy development cards that I decided to block the 2 people most likely to buy one on their turn. But where would you block in this situation, and who would you steal from? Before I show the end of the game, I just want to remind everyone that a large part of making this video is to get feedback from everyone and learn myself. So please, in the comment section below, title, situation, whatever number you want to talk about, and tell me your thoughts. Did I do something right? Do you think I did something completely wrong? Did I miss something completely? I'm really excited to see the comments. Alright guys, so here's how the game ends. Here's the final revolution. However, viewer discretion is advised because this makes me absolutely want to throw up. So, on my turn I rolled an 11, you guys already saw that. Already an unfortunate roll. Gordy rolls a 2. So now we got double 2s. 2 ore for Ion now. Great. And another 11. Ouch. Good game. So on Gordy's turn back there, he rolled a 2, right? But he didn't play a knight or a mono. So I'm thinking, he must have had the last VP. I just need to get that mono out of the deck when it comes to my turn. It never got that far, but... However, after the game, it turns out Gordy really did have the mono, and I should have tried to persuade Gordy to use it. But, you know, at the end of the day, what's Gordy playing for? It's physically impossible for him to win. What is the point for him to play the mono there, right? Just to maybe get an extra point? It's not that big of a deal. Double 2s, double 11s to end this one, this crazy game. And enough for a monster 2-point turn without even pulling for it from Ion. Congrats to him, well played. Very quickly, I'm just going to summarize some key takeaways that I learned from watching over this past game. First off, always track the resource and development cards of every single person. You know, development cards are pretty easy to track, and it's something that definitely helped me see what was left in the development card deck. But the biggest thing here is track the resource and development cards of every single person. Even if a player has no chance at winning, it is very vital that you track their cards. Number 2, talk down trades between other players. I think the biggest turning point in this game might have been when Dylighted and Ion made that deal, where Dylighted could secure a road, but Ion got a city. I think it was very important for me to lay out facts and keep that trade from happening. Third, it's important to balance the game and keep every player into it. Because Gordy had no chance at winning, there's no point in him playing the mono at the end there that could have helped me get another turn to win the game. I think it's really important throughout this game that I help Gordy get a settlement spot so that they're not completely out of the running off the bat, and that way they don't just spend time buying development cards and keeping me from getting largest army. Making the trade to get him to the 8-3 or get a settle spot over Dylighted was really important and something that I could have used to my benefit. Lastly, stick to a game plan. Sure, your game plan might adapt throughout the game, but my biggest mistake was being wish-washy with my game plan. One turn I'd say let's go army, the very next turn I'd say no, let's build cities, then the turn after I'd go back and say let's go for army again. Sure, it's valuable to be very flexible in your way of getting to 10 points, but at a certain point in the game, you need to put your head down and stick to one specific plan, your destiny. Now we can take a look at my updated records against these 3 players. Ion now has a winning record over me, but actually since this game I've played with Dylighted quite a few more times, and my god has he kicked my ass. Dylighted is of course a phenomenal player. I'm sure most of you guys are already subscribed to him if you're subscribed to me, but definitely check out his channel, give him some support. He's a phenomenal player, and I'm very grateful to have played with him again. And that's the video, everyone. Please subscribe and like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see y'all next time.